Trademarks in India. As we had already mentioned, there was no mechanism or law for protecting trademarks. Initially, there was a provision under the Indian Penal Code, which is a part of the criminal law, which pertained to offences relating to documents and property marks. And it also had offences relating to property and other marks. These were the provisions by which if someone used a mark without authorization, that was regarded as a criminal offence. So there was a penalty attributed to a person who uses a mark without authorization. Now, this was repealed from the criminal laws when the Trademarks Act 1958 was enacted. So when we had a special regime, the provision which criminalized unauthorized use of marks was removed from the criminal statutes, and it was now a part of a separate act in itself. So the first act that we have is the Trademarks Act 1958. Now, if we look at the laws pertaining to trademarks, we can see a consolidation of laws happening over a period of time. First, there was the Trademarks Act 1940, which existed during the British time, and there was also an Indian Merchandise Marks Act. Merchandise, we had already mentioned that trade in goods or services could also refer to merchandise, which again is a British Act which existed in 1889, since 1889. And as we have just mentioned, we had provisions of the Indian Penal Code. Now, all these three acts or provisions were replaced when the Trade and Merchandise Marks Act was enacted in 1958. So 1958 was the first act passed by independent India, and it replaced the 1940 Act, the 1889 Act, and some provisions of the Indian Penal Code. Now, before the 1958 Act, if there was a need to stop a person who was using a mark, you would use the Specific Relief Act 1877 and get a permanent injunction. So, injunction was the relief a trademark holder could get against a person who was unauthorizedly using the mark. So, you could get an order from the court to injunct the person from using that mark. And anything that pertained to registration was covered by the Indian Registration Act. So registration, matters of registration was covered by the Indian Registration Act 1908, and matters pertaining to infringement was covered by the Specific Relief Act. The 1958 Act had been in operation for close to 4 decades, and the Act was replaced by the 1999 Trademarks Act to bring the Indian law in compliance with the obligations under the World Trade Organization. When India became a member of World Trade Organization since 1995, they brought the trademark regime in compliance with the requirements of the TRIPS agreement, and the 1999 Act was passed to bring the law in compliance with the TRIPS agreement. So, just to recap, so we had a Trademarks Act of 1940, then there was a Trademarks Inquiry Committee which was headed by Rajagopal Iyengar, the Iyengar Committee. Pursuant to the recommendations, we had the 1958 Act. The 1958 Act existed for close to 4 decades, and then we had the 1999 Act, which brought the law in compliance with the obligations under the TRIPS agreement. Now, this was based on a comprehensive review of the existing law and in tune with the development in trade practices, and to give also effect to important judicial decisions which came in the 4 decades after the 1958 Act. The 1999 Act has certain features which were not there in the 1958 Act. It enlarged the scope and definition of trademark. It improved the process of registration. The period of protection was enhanced from 7 to 10 years. Now you had to renew a trademark every 10 years. Earlier it was 7 years. It introduced registration for service, well-known marks and collective marks. This was not there in the 1958 Act, and this was again in compliance of the obligations under the World Trade Organization. And importantly, now an infringement suit can be filed where the plaintiff resides. So earlier it had to be where the infringement occurred or where the defendant resided or carried his business. Now it could be anywhere where the plaintiff resides. Now, the jurisdiction of the 1999 Act, it extends to the whole of India. The term of renewal, as we just mentioned, if it is registered, it can be renewed every 10 years. So a trademark can be kept alive in perpetuity as long as it is renewed and as long as efforts to protect it from infringement are also done. Now, the rights conferred by registration include exclusive right to use the mark for registered goods and services. So your right to use the mark is confined to the goods and services for which it is registered. For example, if you have registered a particular word for, say, trade in goods covering a particular kind of goods, say shoes, you may not be allowed to use that mark for selling stationery unless you have a registration covering that class as well. What is a good trademark? A good trademark is a mark that is easy to speak and spell, because at the end of the day, a trader, though he coins the trademark, it should be used by the users or the general public, and it should be appealing and easy to remember or recollect. It can be an invented or a coined word, because dictionary word and generic words are not allowed as trademarks in the normal course. And you can have a unique monogram, logo, or a geometrical device representing the trademark. Now, certain things that you should avoid are laudatory and descriptive matters. So laudatory and descriptive matters are not granted trademark. Geographical names, common surnames, names of community or persons should be avoided. Geographical names cannot be a subject of trademark, but goods coming from a particular geographical territory can be protected by GI or geographical indication, which is another subject that we will be covering. A matter prohibited by law to be used as trademark cannot be used as a trademark. A matter that is same or similar to an already existing mark, because that can cause confusion or it can lead to what we call deceptive similarity, and that can be a reason for an infringement action. Trademark is defined in section 2. It means a mark capable of being represented graphically. So graphical representation is key for a mark, and which is capable of distinguishing goods and services. So it can be represented and it distinguishes goods and services of one person from those of the other, and may include shape of goods, it may include their packaging and combination of colors. Now these were introduced by the new definition. So a mark is something that can be graphically indicated, represented graphically, and it does the function of distinguishing goods and services. Now, so what can be graphically represented? What can distinguish goods and services from one person to another is regarded as a trademark. It can include shape of goods, like the Coca-Cola bottle. It can include packaging material. Now, there are some packaging material that are unique to a particular product that can also be covered, and it can also cover combination of colors. Word marks claim the right to use the word alone, or letters or numbers. There is no right claimed in a word mark in a manner on how these words are presented. So word marks are marks which pertain to a word alone, and it gives the right only for the use of the word or the letters or the numbers. Service marks are word, phrase, symbol, or design or combination of any of these, and they are used to identify and distinguish the source of a service rather than goods. So good marks are used for recognizing goods, whereas service marks are used to recognize the source of the service. Collective marks are used for distinguishing goods or services of members of an association of persons. So they collectively use a mark. Certain trading communities or certain trading bodies would use mark and would allow the members to use those marks. Certification marks are certified by the proprietor of the mark, and they pertain to origin, material, mode of manufacture of goods or performance of services, quality, accuracy, or other characteristics. So all the quality marks that we know are certification marks. Wool mark is a certification mark. There are also some unconventional trademarks. Now color trademarks, though combination of colors is now used, but unconventional in the sense that it was not there in the 1958 Act. But the 1999 Act allows for color, combination of colors to be a subject matter of trademark. So the use of purple in Cadbury chocolates is one such instance. The shape marks are also allowed under the 1999 Act. As we just mentioned, the Coca-Cola bottle shape can be a subject matter of shape mark. Certain other unconventional marks are still not recognized under the Act. For instance, smell marks and sound marks. Now there was a case involving Harley Davidson motorcycles. Now they were denied a sound mark in the United States, and there is instances of smell marks being granted in other jurisdictions for tennis ball with a scent of mown grass or with a rose scented tire for cars. The law in India with regard to this is that the marks need to be graphically represented. That's a requirement under the law. And if it has to be graphically represented, it should be capable of being portrayed on paper. And that's how you file your trademarks. So there is still some uncertainty as to whether smell marks and sound marks would be allowed under the Indian law. So apart from the smell marks and the sound marks, there is also an attempt to have trademarks for taste. So that's again, as we just mentioned, in India there has to be a graphical representation on paper. So the law with regard to smell, sound and trademarks is still not crystallized in India. Now who can apply for a trademark? Any person claiming to be the proprietor of a trademark who uses the mark or propose to use it can apply for a trademark. Now this has to be done by applying to the Controller General for Patent Designs and Trademarks. It's a common controller for patent designs and trademarks. Filed by submitting to the office. The application can be submitted to the office by post or electronically. E-filing is also permissible. The application should have the trademark, the goods and services relating to the trademark, the graphical representation of the trademark, goods and services to which the trademark pertains to, name, address, attorney details, and period of use of the mark if the mark has already been in use. Now the trademark confers an exclusive right to use. It's a prima facie evidence of proprietorship of the trademark. It's proof of ownership. The registered proprietor may assign or license the trademark as any other property. Now this is a distinguishing feature of intellectual property, that all intellectual property can be assigned or licensed. Registered proprietor can enjoy the goodwill associated with the registered trademark forever if the mark is renewed from time to time. So the goodwill attributed to the mark can be maintained forever. So this is what we call an unlimited life intellectual property, unlimited life IP, since you can keep it forever by renewing it. For instance, Coca-Cola has been in existence for about 100 years because it has been constantly renewed. The trademark has been constantly renewed and kept alive.